All right, so today we're diving deep into one of those stories you just can't make up.
Oh, I know what you mean.
The rise and fall of Silk Road.
A story for the digital age, if there ever was one.
I mean, most folks have probably heard the name, right?
Yeah, at least the basics.
An online black market, dark web, all that.
Buying and selling, well, pretty much anything illegal you can imagine.
Drugs, weapons, you name it.
All powered by Bitcoin, of course, to keep things nice and anonymous.
But the real story, the how and the who, that's what we're digging into today.
It's wild, the whole thing.
Absolutely, and we've got a ton of sources to work with.
Yeah, lay it on me.
We've got excerpts from Nick Bilton's American Kingpin, which is just a fantastic read, by the way.
Definitely a page-turner.
Actual court documents, which, let me tell you, are not always the most exciting reads.
Aha. No, I can imagine.
But in this case, they're full of these little details that just bring the whole story to life.
The devil's in the details, right?
And here's the kicker. We've even got some actual forum posts from the mastermind himself, Ross Ulbricht.
Wow. Primary source material.
The good stuff. And what really struck me going through all of this is the contrast.
Yeah.
Between Ulbricht's, well, let's call it his seemingly normal beginnings.
Normal, how so?
And the path he ended up on, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's what gets me too. You look at this guy on paper.
Right.
Eagle Scout, top-notch SAT score.
Full scholarships, not to just any universities. We're talking prestigious institutions.
You'd think set for life, right? Successful, conventional, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. But, well, somewhere along the line, things took a turn.
A hard left turn by the looks of it.
You could say that again.
So where's the turning point? The fork in the road?
From what I gathered, his time at Penn State seems like that was pretty pivotal.
Penn State, huh?
Yeah, he got really deep into libertarianism, big time.
Oh, interesting. Now, that's an ideology that can take you to some interesting places.
No kidding. And in Ulbricht's case, it seems like it really did.
So libertarianism, for folks who might not be familiar.
Yeah, good point. It's essentially the idea that individual liberty trumps everything else.
Minimal government intervention. That's the key.
Exactly. The government's seen as, well, a potential threat to that freedom.
A threat to individual liberty. Yeah, that's the core of it.
And you can kind of see how that ideology, how that way of thinking could plant the seeds for something like Silk Road.
Makes sense, yeah.
Ulbricht, he wanted to create this digital space free from regulation, a true free market.
A utopia for libertarians, you could say.
In a way, yeah, where people could buy and sell whatever they wanted, no interference, no oversight.
The ultimate expression of free will, at least in his mind.
Exactly. But to create this hidden world, he needed the right tools.
Tools of the trade, so to speak.
And this is where the technical side gets really interesting.
Okay, let's geek out for a minute.
We're talking the dark web.
Yeah.
That hidden part of the internet you can't just access with your everyday browser.
Right, you need some special software like Tor.
Tor, that's the big one.
Imagine a secret city online, hidden addresses. But instead of .com,
Right.
You got Onion. So it's designed for anonymity every step of the way.
And then there's Bitcoin.
The currency of choice in this hidden world.
Perfect for Silk Road, decentralized, hard to trace, at least back then.
It all sounds very cloak and dagger.
Oh, it was. But here's the thing about Ulbricht. He was mostly self-taught when it came to coding.
Wait, really?
Yeah, pretty impressive considering what he built.
No kidding, that takes some serious skills.
But even brilliant minds, well, they make mistakes.
To err is human, right?
And he made a few early on, ones that would come back to haunt him later.
Oof, those always come back to bite you.
It's true. And you got to remember, this was still pretty early days for the dark web and Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Wild West of the internet.
Exactly. So the playbook was still being written.
So what kind of mistakes are we talking about?
Well, for one, using his personal email address on a Bitcoin forum when he was looking for help setting up Silk Road.
Whoa, rookie mistake.
Right. It seems almost unbelievable looking back.
Hard to believe, yeah.
But I guess back then, the idea of true anonymity, maybe it felt more attainable.
You're probably right. The early days of anything, there's a certain naivete.
Definitely a sense of, I don't know, maybe invincibility.
It's a fascinating paradox, though, isn't it?
How so?
Wanting to stay hidden, but also needing to connect with others to build something as complex as Silk Road.
Yeah, you can't do it alone.
He wasn't a lone wolf in all of this.
Not at all. His friend Richard Bates, a coder, they knew each other from Penn State.
Okay, so he's got a partner in crime.
In a way, yeah. And even Ulbricht's girlfriend at the time, Julia Vai, she knew about it, at least for a while.
Wow, talk about keeping secrets.
It's crazy to think about the trust involved in those early days, the weight of those secrets.
People believed in his vision, but they were taking a huge risk too.
For sure, their lives could have been turned upside down.
So how did Silk Road go from this hidden project to, well, what it became?
That's the million-dollar question. Wasn't an overnight success?
Really?
No. Ulbricht had to be smart about getting the word out.
He couldn't exactly post an ad on Facebook, right?
Uh-huh. No, not quite. So he got creative.
Let me guess. Good old-fashioned word of mouth.
Well, sort of. He started posing as a buyer on online forums.
Okay, so like undercover marketing.
Exactly. There was this forum called the Shroomery. Pretty self-explanatory what that was about.
Sounds like my kind of place.
He'd just casually mention this new marketplace he'd found, pique people's curiosity,
Clever, very clever.
drove traffic to Silk Road, and once people found the site...
It wasn't some shady, hard-to-navigate thing, was it?
Nope, it was surprisingly user-friendly, ratings, reviews,
Yeah.
just like Amazon or eBay.
Wow, so he really put some effort into making it accessible.
He did, and he had all these shipping options, to keep things discreet.
Oh, I bet. So how'd they do that?
You could get your purchase tucked inside a CD case, hidden in the ripples of cardboard, all kinds of tricks.
Wow, talk about attention to detail.
It's a real paradox, this underground marketplace striving for good customer service.
It's kind of funny when you think about it.
Right, and for a while, it worked. Silk Road was booming, buyers and sellers everywhere.
But success, especially in the criminal underworld, it attracts attention.
And not the good kind.
Exactly what happened.
Well, those packaging methods, the ones they were so proud of,
Yeah.
they kind of backfired.
How so?
All those packages with those unique markings, they started to raise eyebrows.
Too much of a good thing.
You could say that, and it wasn't long before law enforcement took notice.
Uh-oh. The party's over.
Pretty much. We're talking about a guy named Jared Durya-Gayan,
Who's he?
Homeland Security agent, working at O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Okay, busy airport, lots of packages.
Exactly, and he starts noticing this pattern, all these packages coming through.
Suspicious packages.
Yeah, often with ecstasy pills, all packaged the same way, same labeling.
Like a beacon in the night.
And he's thinking, this is more than just a coincidence.
This is organized. There's something bigger going on.
He was right. And that's where things started to heat up for Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht.
They were on the radar now.
Big time.
Things are about to get interesting.
You could say that again.
He was on, yeah. And it wasn't just coming from the airport in Chicago.
Oh, things were about to get a whole lot hotter for Silk Road.
Way hotter. June 2011, an article drops, Gawker, written by Adrian Chen.
I remember that article. It was like everyone was suddenly talking about Silk Road.
It blew the whole thing wide open.
Talk about a PR nightmare.
Depends how you look at it, right? I mean, sure, the authorities were definitely paying attention now.
Big time.
But all that publicity, it brought in a ton of new customers, too.
A forbidden fruit effect, right?
Exactly. The more the government tried to shut it down, the more people flocked to it.
Talk about unintended consequences.
That's like they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
I bet Ulbricht had some serious mixed feelings about it all.
Oh, for sure. Imagine that. Your secret empire suddenly splashed all over the news.
Must have been a wild ride for him.
On one hand, business is booming.
Right.
On the other hand, you've got Senator Chuck Schumer breathing down your neck.
Calling for the site to be shut down, no less.
Talk about pressure.
And it wasn't just about drugs anymore.
What do you mean?
The government, they started getting worried about, well, all the other stuff that could be traded on Silk Road.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Weapons, stolen data, even the possibility of terrorist activity. That really freaked them out.
That'll get their attention.
It did, and now multiple agencies were involved, all with their own agendas and methods.
Talk about a bureaucratic nightmare.
It was chaos, and in the middle of all this, Ulbricht's trying to keep it together.
Maintain control, stay hidden, tough gig.
Yeah, he knew the walls were closing in, so what did he do?
Well, he moves to Australia for a while, tries to lay low.
Smart move.
He adopts a new pseudonym, Dread Pirate Roberts.
Dread Pirate Roberts. Where'd that come from?
The Princess Bride, of all things.
Seriously?
He was a big fan, apparently.
Talk about embracing the outlaw persona.
Right. He even comes up with an elaborate escape plan, just in case.
This is getting more and more like a movie plot.
It really is. And on top of all that, he's working nonstop to tighten up security on Silk Road.
Stronger encryption, all that.
Oh, yeah, the whole shebang. He even puts a kill switch on his laptop.
A kill switch.
If it gets seized, boom, all the data's wiped.
Wow, he's not messing around.
He wasn't, and get this. He even starts seeking guidance from this mysterious mentor figure.
Oh, who's this?
He goes by Variety Jones, real name, Roger Thomas Clark, shady character.
So Ulbricht's got a mentor now. That's interesting.
Yeah, Variety Jones, he's got all these connections, knows the dark web inside and out.
Sounds like a valuable asset.
Oh, yeah. Ulbricht was learning from the best, or at least that's what he thought.
All these precautions, the aliases, the security measures.
You'd think he was untouchable, right?
Yeah, like a digital fortress.
But all that, it couldn't protect him forever.
The authorities were closing in.
It was only a matter of time.
This is where the cat and mouse game really kicks into high gear.
On one side, you've got Ulbricht constantly refining his methods, trying to stay ahead.
And on the other, multiple agencies, each with their own approach.
DHS agent De Jaglayan, the guy from the airport, he's still on the case.
Still.
Oh yeah, undercover, making purchases on Silk Road, gathering evidence.
Right.
Other agents, they're working to infiltrate Silk Road's staff accounts.
Try to get a look inside, see how it all works.
Exactly. But here's where things get messy.
Oh, yeah.
We're not talking about clean police work anymore. There's corruption, betrayal, even talk of murder for hire.
Whoa, hold on. Murder for hire.
Yeah, it gets dark.
Sounds more like a thriller than a crime story.
It does, right? And these DEA agents, Carl Force and Sean Bridges,
Tell me about
they're supposed to be the good guys, right?
Well, yeah, that's the idea.
Except they're not, both of them, corrupt to the core.
Seriously.
Force, he's posing as a drug dealer, goes by the name Knob.
Okay, so he's undercover. But what's corrupt about that?
He starts extorting money from Ulbricht.
Extorting? Like blackmail?
Pretty much. And Bridges, he gets caught stealing Bitcoin from Silk Road user accounts.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
It's crazy, right? These agents are supposed to be bringing down Silk Road.
Yeah.
But they're getting sucked into the whole thing. The money, the power. It's intoxicating.
It makes you wonder.
Right.
About what? About the whole system, if even the people tasked with upholding the law.
They can be corrupted by it.
Yeah, it's like, who can you trust?
It's a slippery slope, that's for sure.
So what about those murder for hire plots? What's the story there?
Well, the details are a bit murky, but supposedly Ulbricht, he felt threatened.
By who?
Blackmailers, people trying to expose him.
Makes sense. The stakes were getting pretty high.
Oh, yeah, and Ulbricht, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty.
So he orders hits on these guys.
That's what they say. But here's the thing.
What?
No evidence of any actual killings was ever found. Nope. So a lot of people think it was all just bluster, a way to intimidate his enemies.
A psychological game, huh?
Could be, or maybe he just had some really good people cleaning up after him.
Either way, it adds a whole other layer to this whole saga.
It does, doesn't it? Makes you wonder what Ulbricht was really capable of.
Right. Visionary entrepreneur or ruthless criminal, the lines start to blur.
Exactly. And all this time, the FBI, they're watching, waiting for their moment.
They're playing the long game.
Oh, yeah, they knew Ulbricht would slip up eventually. Everyone does.
So what was his downfall? What was the mistake that finally brought him down?
It was a combination of things, really good old-fashioned detective work.
Yeah.
And a little bit of luck. May 2013, they catch a break.
Tell me about it.
They discover these coding errors on the Silk Road website, little vulnerabilities.
Vulnerabilities?
Yeah, like cracks in the armor.
And what were these vulnerabilities doing?
Leaking IP addresses.
IP addresses, those are like digital fingerprints, right?
Right. Exactly. And these fingerprints, they lead the FBI to a data center in Iceland.
Iceland. Wow, so that's where the servers were hiding.
Of all places, yeah, pretty remote.
I guess that's the point, right? Hard to get to, hard to trace.
Exactly. But the FBI, they're not giving up that easily.
So they fly a team over to Iceland.
They do. Agent Chris Tarbell himself, he leads the charge.
What a story this is.
And the Icelandic authorities, they cooperate. They hand over a hard drive.
Full of data from the Silk Road servers.
The whole enchilada, transactions, usernames, everything.
Talk about a gold mine.
It was, but I can imagine it was overwhelming too, sifting through all that data.
Yeah, trying to find the needle in the haystack.
Exactly. So how do they narrow it down? How do they find Ulbricht?
That's the question.
They find the master computer, the one that all the other servers were communicating with.
The brain of the operation.
Exactly. And this computer, it had a name.
Let me guess. Dread Pirate Roberts.
Close. It was called Frosty.
Frosty. Interesting choice.
And get this. The login credentials for Dread Pirate Roberts, they included Frosty at Frosty.
Whoa, wait a minute. That's starting to sound familiar.
It is, isn't it? The pieces are starting to fall into place.
They are, but they still don't know who's behind that Frosty username.
Not yet. That's where IRS agent Gary Alford comes in.
The IRS. What are they doing in this?
Alford's initial task was to follow the money.
Trace the Bitcoin, see if they could find a real-world identity.
Exactly, but Alford, he's a meticulous guy. He takes a different approach.
Oh, yeah? What did he do?
He starts digging through online forums, message boards, anything he can find.
Looking for what?
Early mentions of Silk Road, you see? He had this hunch.
Okay, I'm listening.
Whoever started Silk Road, they would have been talking about it online, drumming up interest.
Makes sense. Got to get those first customers.
Exactly. And this was before that Gawker article, before Silk Road was all over the news.
So he's looking for those early adopters, the first whispers of Silk Road.
That's it. And remember that username Ulbricht used, Altoid.
Yeah, the one he used when he was pretending to be a buyer.
Right. Well, Alfred finds a bunch of posts from Altoid talking about Silk Road.
No way.
Yeah, and they're all from before June 2011, before that Gawker article.
So it's him. Gotta be.
It's looking that way, but here's the kicker.
There's more.
Oh, yeah, remember that rookie mistake Ulbricht made?
Using his personal email address on that Bitcoin forum.
That's the one. Well, Alfred finds that post, too.
Oh, man. Talk about a smoking gun.
It's right there, plain as day, rosselbricht@gmail.com.
Alfred must have been doing a victory dance.
I bet he was. He finally had a name to put to the mysterious Dread Pirate Roberts.
But he still needed to prove it, right?
Oh, yeah, he had the name, but he needed to connect the dots, make sure it was really him.
So what did he do?
He kept digging, found a Stack Overflow account, you know, that website for programmers.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
The username, Altoid.
No way. The same Altoid.
The one and only. And guess what this Altoid was asking about?
Don't tell me, Tor.
Bingo. The software you need to access the dark web. And get this, the user later changed their name to Frosty.
Holy cow. It's all coming together now.
The same Frosty as Dread Pirate Roberts' computer, the pieces were falling into place.
I bet Alfred couldn't believe his luck.
He was on a roll. Then he finds a LinkedIn profile for Ross Ulbricht.
What's on the profile?
Some interesting stuff, life goals, aspirations. Let's just say they hinted at some anti-establishment views.
Okay, that's pretty telling.
So now Alfred's got the name, the email address, the online activity, the whole 9 yards.
It's closed, right?
Not so fast. They still needed to catch him red-handed.
Logged into Silk Road as Dread Pirate Roberts, that's the only way to prove it beyond a doubt.
Exactly, and this is where things get really wild.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Remember those fake IDs Ulbricht ordered?
The ones that got intercepted by customs.
Those are about to play a key role in all of this.
How so?
Well, Homeland Security agents, they were working on a totally separate case, and they decided to pay a visit to the address where those fake IDs were supposed to be delivered.
To see who ordered them, I guess.
Exactly, and guess who's living there?
Ross Ulbricht.
You got it. He'd moved out of his friend's place, paying rent in cash under a fake name.
Living a double life. Classic.
The agents, they question him. He's sweating bullets, but they don't connect him to Silk Road. Not yet. They're focused on the fake IDs.
And had him right there. And they missed their chance.
Talk about a near miss, but while all this is happening, Alfred's still working the case.
Good thing, too.
Oh, yeah. He finds that Homeland Security file on the fake IDs, and boom!
The address matches up with Ulbricht.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
It was the IRS agent who cracked the case. Not the FBI or the DEA. That's amazing.
It's true. Sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
And what happened when Alfred shared his findings with the other agencies?
They knew they finally had their man, but they had to be smart about it.
They couldn't just storm in and arrest him.
No way. They needed to catch him in the act, logged into Silk Road, no doubt about it.
So how'd they do it?
It was like something out of a movie. Seriously, they knew Ulbricht liked to hang out at this library.
The Glen Park branch in San Francisco, I read about that.
That's the one. And they'd been watching his online activity. They noticed a pattern.
What kind of pattern?
Whenever Dread Pirate Roberts was active on Silk Road, Ulbricht was also logged into his Gmail.
So they knew they had to get him at the library while he was online, vulnerable.
Exactly. And they came up with this plan. It was brilliant, really.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Agent Duryagian, remember him? He was still undercover as Cirrus, Silk Road staff.
Yeah, the guy who was making those undercover purchases.
That's him. Well, they use him to lure Ulbricht into a trap. They get him to check on some flagged messages that only Dread Pirate Roberts could access.
Clever. So he's distracted, focused on those messages.
Totally oblivious to what's going on around him.
And then what happens?
While Ulbricht's busy with those messages, a couple of undercover agents, they stage a distraction.
A distraction, like what?
A loud argument, something to draw his attention away from his laptop.
And when he turns to look,
damn, another agent swoops in, grabs his laptop before he can even react.
Wow, what a takedown, straight out of a Hollywood script.
It was. Game over for Dread Pirate Roberts, the Silk Road Empire, all of it gone in an instant.
It must have been a surreal moment for Ulbricht.
Oh, absolutely. His whole world came crashing down around him.
What about the people in his life? His family, friends, what did they think?
They were shocked, completely blindsided. They described him as this kind, intelligent guy, free spirit.
The stereotypical nice guy you'd never suspect.
Exactly. They couldn't believe he was capable of something like this.
It's a reminder that you never really know someone, do you?
It's true. Everyone's got secrets.
So what happened next? What was the legal fallout from all this?
Ulbricht, he gets indicted on 7 charges: narcotics trafficking, money laundering, the whole shebang.
Serious stuff.
He pleads not guilty, claims he passed Silk Road on to someone else.
But nobody bought that, did they?
Nope, after a 3-week trial, the jury finds him guilty on all counts.
Wow. What was the sentence?
Life in prison, no parole. Pretty harsh.
Harsher than what the prosecution even asked for, I read.
It's true. The judge, Catherine Forrest, she wasn't messing around.
She made it clear she saw Silk Road as this dangerous enterprise, a threat to society.
And she didn't buy into the whole libertarian utopia argument.
No, she saw the real-world consequences, the addiction, the crime, the destruction.
The human cost of it all.
So in the end, Ulbricht's dream, this vision of a free market paradise, it backfired in the worst way possible.
It did. He wanted to create a legacy, and he did, but not the one he imagined.
This whole story, it's just incredible. It's got everything, the rise and fall of an empire, the cat and mouse game with law enforcement.
The corruption, the betrayal, the mystery. It's a story that stays with you.
It really does. And it raises so many questions about the internet, about freedom, about the dark side of human nature.
Yeah, what are the limits of freedom in the digital age? How do we balance security and privacy?
These are the questions we all need to be thinking about as we move forward. The Silk Road saga, it's a warning
A cautionary tale, for sure.
about the unintended consequences of technology, about the dangers of unchecked power.
And about the importance of responsibility, both individual and collective.
That's a good place to leave it, I think. Lots for our listeners to ponder.
Definitely. The Silk Road, it may be gone, but the questions it raises, those are still with us.
And that's what makes this story so fascinating, so relevant even today. So to our listeners, as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.